This is a multimedia article on the offensive tactic, movement to contact. In this tutorial, you will learn the fundamental maneuver and decision-making of the movement to contact. You may use the navigational buttons to move forward or backward in the tutorial, or you may select the section you wish to explore. Movement to contact is an offensive tactic. This tactic is used when there is little information available on the enemy disposition, their size, capabilities, or exact location. If such information were available, then a movement to contact would not be suitable. In this instance, a deliberate attack would produce more favorable results. Keep in mind that a movement to contact may be tasked to seize and control terrain, or it may be assigned to the destruction of an enemy force. Like all tactics, movement to contact requires both a planning and an execution phase. At the level of small unit tactics, it is generally understood that employing a movement to contact means that forward reconnaissance either has not taken place, or that it has netted little assessment of the enemy situation. This often leads to the assumption that the enemy has not built up surface fortifications, yet some defensive fortifications should always be anticipated. Planning a movement to contact involves a careful assessment of the tactical area of operations. If key terrain is to be seized and controlled, that terrain must be indicated on the topographical map. If instead the objective is the destruction and capture of the enemy force, then again the terrain must be analyzed, this time for the enemy's natural routes of egress. These escape routes must be cut off by friendly forces once the enemy has begun to withdraw. Whatever the case, maneuver control measures such as a primary direction of attack and phase lines are designated so that the commander can monitor the evolution of the operation. Furthermore, the direction of attack will be further broken into attack lanes for the vanguard forces. Because the enemy situation is unknown, the movement to contact arrays its force conservatively from a force protection perspective. This means that no less than 50% of the force will remain held as reserves. The reserve force and the command team together make up the main body of the movement to contact. The remainder of the force is arrayed into multiple vanguard teams. Depending on the situation, vanguard teams will be deployed forward of the main body, and may also be deployed to the flanks and rear to protect the movement to contact from the enemy's potential spoiling attacks. At the small unit level, 2 or 3 vanguards forward of the main body are the norm. For example, a 30-troop platoon will often have 3 squads with 2 fire teams per squad. That's a total of 6 fire teams for the entire platoon. If 3 fire teams are deployed as vanguards forward of the platoon, the other 3 fire teams serve as the reserve force. These fire teams will remain back with the command team to be committed to the fight as directed by the platoon leader. The effort of the movement to contact is to locate, fix, disrupt, and destroy the enemy force. Forward vanguards attempt to locate the enemy, functioning as a reconnaissance pull. This means as each vanguard moves forward along their axis of attack, they will continually send reports back to the commander. This information shapes the commander's situational awareness and serves to pull the main body behind the vanguard. In doing so, the commander will commit the reserve force whenever he believes one or more of the vanguards have come into contact with the objective. Engaging the objective offers a potentially decisive engagement in which the enemy is forced to fight. At such a time, the commander will dedicate the vanguard in contact with the enemy force to fix the enemy. This may require an actual firefight engagement, or it might simply mean to continue to observe the enemy unnoticed. The remaining vanguard teams are then dedicated to the flanks and rear of the objective, the effort being to isolate the enemy force and disrupt their ability to coordinate with other enemy forces. Up to this point in the movement to contact, the vanguards have had the lion's share of the work. The vanguards have located the enemy, fixed them to that position either through suppression or continued observation, and the vanguards have maneuvered into position to isolate the objective by potentially disrupting any enemy effort to coordinate an effective response. That's 3 of the 4 steps: locate, fix, and disrupt. The 4th step, the destruction of the enemy force, is left to the reserve force. When the commander realizes a vanguard has come into contact with the objective, the commander will rapidly deploy his reserve force forward. After all, the vanguard is small in numbers and lightly armed. If they are engaged in a firefight, they will not last long against a sizable enemy force. The enemy might repulse the friendly vanguard or escape completely. The reserve force then aligns itself along the direction of attack of the vanguard currently in contact with the enemy. The movement forward is brisk, using speed as the primary form of security. With the enemy objective fixed by the vanguard's suppressive fire and unable to coordinate with other enemy forces for help, it now becomes an effort of attrition through bound and overwatch. The reserve force places as much firepower forward as time and space will allow. They move violently forward and overwhelm the enemy force while the vanguard lifts or shifts fire accordingly. This is called a defeat in detail. Each enemy force along the avenue of attack is located, fixed, disrupted, and destroyed. All offensive actions will reach culmination, the point in the attack that the enemy's defense either disperses or stiffens as they withdraw into their own lines of reinforcements. Whichever the case, at culmination the friendly force must prepare to transition to another tactic. More commonly than not, the movement to contact will transition to a defensive tactic in order to protect the terrain they have seized. If the terrain was not the objective, then the friendly force may withdraw entirely. Lastly, the movement to contact may transition to another offensive tactic such as the pursuit or exploitation if a target of opportunity presents itself. The battlefield is fluid and dynamic. Each commander must be cognizant of these opportunities and of indicators of culmination as they appear. The movement to contact is used when there is little information provided on the enemy's disposition, such as troop numbers, and exact locations of their fortifications and forward obstacles. The movement to contact may be tasked to seize terrain and facilities, or it may be tasked to destroy an enemy force. Careful preparation employs maneuver control measures that break the area of operations into phase lines and axis of attack which coincide with named areas of interest. Vanguards are then dedicated to each axis of attack. The remainder of the force, at least 50%, makes up the main body. This is the reserve and the command team. The effort here is to locate, fix, disrupt, and destroy the enemy force on the objective. As the vanguard move along their axis of attack, they report any enemy activity or evidence to the commander. This information is crucial for painting the picture of the commander's situational awareness. When the commander believes a vanguard has come into contact with the main objective or decisive action, several actions will take place simultaneously. First, that vanguard will fix the enemy. Second, the other vanguard teams will be dispatched to disrupt the coordination of nearby enemy forces. Third, the main body will rapidly move toward the decisive point of engagement. With the vanguard team providing suppressive fires, the reserve force violently assaults into the isolated enemy force, defeating each enemy force in detail. Finally, the friendly force will transition from a movement to contact and conduct a defense, withdraw, or a renewed attack against targets of opportunity. The commander must be aware of signs of culmination or he risks losing all that his troops have gained. This concludes the fundamentals of the movement to contact.